the Asics Gel-Nimbus 26. Very much a more is more maximalist experience. More cushion, more plush, more of everything. But does it all still work together? I'm not completely new to the Nimbus. Last year, I actually went to the Asics store and I tried on the Nimbus 25 3 separate times. I even jogged for about 2K on a treadmill in a pair. And I knew immediately, every time I put the shoe on, that it just wasn't a shoe I was going to run in. It was just too much foam, too big, too heavy, just too much of everything that I don't like in a running shoe. But I did say this year, 2024, I'm going to expand the horizons of what I cover on this channel. And one of the main things that I need to spend a little bit more time in are the max stack, max cushion shoes, because we're going to see a lot of them in 2024. And I figured the Nimbus 25 was such a successful design for Asics that it was about time that I actually tried one on and actually owned one and ran in it. Now, the reviews of the Nimbus 26 have been intriguing to me because people are saying that it's a little bit firmer. That sounds like what I want, because the Nimbus 25 was just too one-dimensional, just too squishy for me. And if the Nimbus 26 was a little bit firmer, well, now we're talking, which is why I finally went out and bought a pair of these. But I don't know if this shoe still is the right shoe for me. Let's start with the specs on this shoe. What we have here is 41.5 mil of foam in the heel, 33.5 mil of foam in the forefoot, giving you an 8 mil drop. Now the foam in this shoe is all FF Blast Plus Eco, the same foam that was in the Nimbus 25, and a foam we're seeing in a few other shoes across the Asics line this year in 2024. There is still the gel unit in the heel of this shoe, which you only feel if you're walking or heel striking. If you're a midfoot or forefoot striker, you're not going to feel it at all. You're never even going to know it's there. The upper has changed. It's now an engineered knit upper, which I believe is more breathable. As far as breathability, I've had no issues with that. It's actually quite lovely in that way. The heel counter is stout, but not the stoutest one that I've felt, but the ankle collar is extremely padded. This is a very plush step-in feel to this shoe. This upper sort of just wraps around your foot. One odd design choice is the tongue on this shoe. It's a very stretchy and thin material. Now, the thinness of it doesn't give me the problem. The stretchiness is where the problem is. I have a high volume foot, and when I put my foot in this shoe, ultimately it's going to crease or bunch up somewhere, usually at the bottom of the eyelet chain. And you can kind of see it creasing already just with the cardboard foot mold in this shoe. The problem is, unlike a normal tongue where you can just sort of pull it taut and, it'll flatten everything out, that doesn't work here. If you pull this tongue up, it just stretches. It doesn't move anything in the tongue. To get rid of the creasing and any sort of pressure point with that crease, you have to undo all the laces, get your finger in there, move it around, try to flatten it out, and then hope it doesn't come back by the time you get the laces tightened down. Given how plush this upper is and how much material is in this shoe, it's an odd choice. I will say the tongue is gusseted and it does wrap around the foot really well. So overall lockdown and on-foot feel of the shoe is fine. It is very plush. But in my US men's size 9, which is the reference size most brands still use, this shoe comes in at 305 grams, which is 10.7 ounces. It's a heavy shoe. Now, I'm not one to always want the lightest shoe or need the absolute race-ready lightness in a shoe, especially in a max stack, max cushion trainer like this. But I will say that this shoe does feel very heavy on foot, but that's part of the maximalism of this shoe. This shoe just is a lot of everything, and it sort of celebrates that. So the weight of the shoe doesn't necessarily cause a problem, but it is something I'm always aware of when I'm running in it. Now, running in this shoe, that's where this shoe gets quite interesting. Now, this is a max cushion shoe. This is supposed to be your most cushioned shoe for those long, easy runs. The shoe's not meant for speed work. It's not meant for any sort of tempo work. It's just the shoe to put on that's going to be very plush, very cushioned, that you just go out and do the bulk of your miles in. And it does that fairly well. But, and this is the but with this shoe. The more I put this shoe on and the more I run in this shoe, I'm kind of beginning to struggle as to why would I pick this shoe? Why would I go run in this shoe when I can go run in this shoe? And that's the problem right now with the Nimbus, is that the Nova Blast 4 exists. It's nearly identical specs as far as stack height. It's the same foam. You don't have the gel pad in the heel, but honestly, you're not going to miss that, generally speaking. It's got a better, lighter upper. It's got a better, just as padded heel counter. It's got a much better tongue. And as hard as I've been on the eyelet chain on this shoe, it still fits better, wraps around the foot better. This shoe is a better version of this shoe. And this is a more lively, more dynamic, just as cushioned ride as this shoe in a much lighter weight package. And that's the fundamental problem with this shoe, is that the Nova Blast 4 exists and it's a more fun shoe. It's a more dynamic shoe, and it does 90% of what this shoe does in a better package. There's kind of no reason to have both of these shoes, because the Nova Blast 4 with the redesign is most of what this is. And it's just a more fun shoe to run in that honestly is cheaper. And while I do prefer the Nova Blast 4, this shoe has two things going for it that make it run differently than the Nova Blast. And some of you, especially if you liked the Nimbus 25, may prefer that. Now, the first one is in the geometry of the midsole. As you can see, the rocker in this shoe is much more mild. I wouldn't call this a traditional geometry, but it's a much flatter rocker. There still is a 4-foot rocker in this shoe, but the other thing about the rocker is that it starts much later. It's probably at the 75, even 80% point of the shoe. So what that gives you is, especially as a heel striker, you're going to get a very kind of slow roll forward. This shoe's not going to feel aggressive at all. And in fact, running in it, it definitely feels less aggressive. Now, again, as a heel striker, that's going to give you a slow roll forward. As a mid-foot striker or a 4-foot striker like myself, it makes this shoe just run kind of flat. It's not really engaging to run in. It's not really fun to run in. And frankly, you're not getting any of the gel in the heel that a heel striker would get. So you're not even getting sort of the big design difference in this midsole. And this geometry is much slower. But again, for easy, slow running, having a slower turnover shoe probably is a good thing. And this definitely does that. The other key difference in this shoe is on the outsole. There's a lot of rubber on this outsole. And this is one of the changes in the 26, is this outsole pattern and the rubber. Asics is calling this Asics Grip Hybrid, meaning there's theoretically AHAR rubber and then another rubber, Asics Grip rubber in this outsole. I don't know which is which. Some other reviewers are saying that, the color is distinguishing it, but I don't see any sort of differences or different pieces of foam or rubber in this outsole. It's just all one piece of foam that's colored differently. This is labeled AHAR Plus. This is labeled Asics Grip. I don't know what's what, but the fact that this shoe has so much rubber on the bottom makes this shoe run much, much firmer than the Nova Blast. And it explains a big design thing about the Nova Blast. Since the beginning of the Nova Blast series, Asics has really stuck to this basic design principle of what they're doing with the outsole on the shoe, which is thin strips of rubber, and you're actually running on a lot of exposed foam on the Nova Blast series. The Nova Blast 4 here is no different. Now, the Nova Blast 4 does have this trampoline effect thing in the forefoot, but I don't really think that really makes a big difference in the way these shoes feel. I think this shoe feels much softer underfoot because you are running on so much more exposed foam. The Nimbus just doesn't have that level of exposed foam. You can see how much rubber is on this shoe. Yes, there is an exposed channel here in the midfoot in the heel, but honestly, it doesn't really do anything. The magic is in the forefoot of the shoe, and on this shoe, you're running on a lot of exposed foam, which gives you a softer, more compliant feel. On this shoe, you're running on a lot more rubber, which gives you a bit of a harsher feel. And that, I think, is really what's making this shoe feel firmer to the people that are reviewing this shoe who spend a lot of time in the 25. Additionally, all that rubber on the outsole of the shoe makes this shoe run very loud. This shoe makes a very distinct sound when you're running in it. And as you can hear, I would call that slappy. It's not like Alpha Fly loud, but you know, it definitely is something that stands out, and you definitely notice that, and you feel that. So the rubber on this shoe definitely makes this shoe feel much firmer, feel much more harsh to run in over a Nova Blast, which is a very soft, very cushy experience. Now, it's not all bad about this shoe. I actually don't think this is a horrible shoe. I don't think I'm the right runner for this shoe. Again, I'm always going to pick the Nova Blast because, again, this has that more aggressive geometry, has a much more aggressive forefoot rocker. As a forefoot striker, that creates a pocket for me to run up. This shoe just feels so much better to run in, and I'm getting most of the cushion that I would get out of this shoe. But I think this shoe has two real use cases. If you are a heel striker, this shoe is kind of magical. This is probably the best heel striking shoe that I've ever run in. Now, I'm not a natural heel striker anymore. I was like 15 years ago. But when I was running with a heel strike in this shoe, the width of the heel, the cradling in the heel cup, there's a lot of foam that wraps up around the heel and gives a lot of structure to the back of the shoe. Plus that gel unit back here makes the initial heel strike in this shoe very smooth, very, very nice. And again, that more mild geometry in this shoe just rolls you forward very slowly. This is not an aggressive shoe at all. The turnover in this shoe is very slow, and it just sort of slowly moves you forward. That heel to toe movement that is very slow makes this an ideal heel striking shoe. Secondly, if you're looking for a FF Blast Plus Eco shoe with a lot of rubber on the outsole because you're running on dirt, gravel, maybe you're taking this on trails a bit and the Nova Blast just doesn't have enough outsole, this may be a good option for you because there is a lot of grip down here. There is a lot of rubber on this shoe, and it does distinguish the way this shoe rides and feels. And this sort of outsole really is an all-around sort of daily outsole to me because I can take this shoe really anywhere, not sacrificing any grip whatsoever. I'm not the runner for this shoe, and I sort of knew that, which is why I never bought the 25. But again, expanding my horizons on this channel this year, and this has been an interesting shoe to kind of experiment with and, you know, play against the Nova Blast 4 and even the Super Blast. And I've gone back-to-back days trying those shoes out and mixing this in, and I get where this fits. But it's, again, I think it's a bit too heavy. It's a bit too harsh for what I want a shoe like this to be because of all this rubber. And it's just a shoe that I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time in. But as this year progresses and we get more max cushion shoes, max stack rocker shoes, which we're going to get a lot, I will pull this one out and use it as sort of a benchmark to, you know, see how those shoes feel. Because for what this package is, I think Asics has done a great job. I know this is a fan favorite. I know people love this shoe. And overall, I think they've really achieved what they're trying to get done with this shoe. It's just their line now, especially with the Nova Blast 4 redesign. I don't know. There's a lot of overlap now in the Asics line, and I just can't make a compelling case to always pick this shoe when there's probably some better or more fun options to run in elsewhere. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.